to the Leo Training Podcast with Joe DeLeo. You'll hear in-depth interviews and tips from world-class athletes, coaches, and industry-leading experts to help you train smarter and improve at what you love to do. Train smarter, get stronger, move better, race faster. Here's your host, Joe DeLeo.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I hope 2019 is off to a great start for you. We are going to kick off this year with a brand new interview from two-time Olympic gold medalist and five-time world champion from USA Women's Rowing, Meghan Musnicki. Meghan was an integral member of the Women's 8 for the London and Rio Olympic Games. What you will learn and may be surprised by is that Meghan was actually cut from the team when she initially tried out. This interview is an awesome story of grit and determination. Meghan's interview is appropriately titled, Dream Bigger, Fail Forward, and Live with Intent. I hope all of you out there in the rowing community will enjoy it. Now, two quick announcements. If you enjoy the show, please help me continue to grow it. Here are two easy ways that you can do that. Follow me on Instagram at the handle @LeoTraining and repost and reshare the show post on Instagram, or leave a review in Apple Podcasts. Those are two quick and simple, easy ways. So share it, repost it on Instagram, or leave a 5-star review in Apple Podcast. Second quick announcement. Keep an eye out in coming weeks for additional information for a project that I've been working on involving the podcast for the past several months that will be coming out later in 2019. I'll share additional information in future episodes, so stay tuned. That's all for now. Let's get to the show. I'm thrilled to welcome onto the Leo Training Podcast 7-time U.S. rowing national team member and double Olympic gold medalist, Meghan Musnicki, native of Naples, New York, now living in San Francisco, California. Meghan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Chat a little.
Yes, me too. We've got a great interview in store for the audience, and we're going to kind of transverse your athletic career and rowing background, and then talk about kind of what you're up to these days. But I will let you kick things off, and you can kind of talk about your athletic career starting in middle school and high school as a basketball and soccer player.
Sure. So I've been athletic and played sports kind of. I just grew up doing it. Like you mentioned, I'm from Naples, New York, which is a super small town in Western upstate New York area. And, our days and nights were spent playing outside, whether it was, summer youth soccer leagues or basketball leagues. I was always doing something. And so I played basketball and soccer through all of middle school and high school. And I had thought that I wanted to go to college and try and play basketball. I mean, I wasn't anything exceptional, but I really loved being part of a team. And basketball was my stronger of the two sports that I played. And so when I went off to college, I wanted to go talk to the basketball coach to see if I could try out for the team. And I was walking through the coaches' offices, and kind of true to Division III or any coaches, rowing coaches in college, they keep their eyes peeled for large athletes that look like they could potentially make good rowers. And sure enough, I walked by this office, and there was this guy who kind of like sticks his head out, and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" And I was like, this is a little creepy. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to talk to the basketball coach." He goes, "Well, why don't you come over here and talk to me? I'm the rowing coach." And I was like, I don't know what that is. At my school was tiny. I mean, I had a graduating class of 65 people. There was no rowing. And so I immediately brushed this guy off and was like, no, I'm going to go talk to the basketball coach. But then, a little bit of thought later, I kind of was like, why not? Why not try something new? And this was up at St. Lawrence, which was where I started my freshman year. And so I quote unquote tried out for the rowing team and made the first varsity 8. It may have had something to do with the fact that there were 8 people on the team at that time, but either way, I still made the 1V.
Nice.
And that was the first time I got in a boat. And so that was, I really liked it. It was so different. I was as they say, a complete fish out of water, uncoordinated, just out there enjoying it and being there with my teammates and the freezing cold that is super upstate New York, where Canton is, where St. Lawrence is located. And then was kind of just going about my freshman year, and my dad passed away suddenly and unexpected me partway through my freshman year. And I decided that I wanted to go and move closer to home. So my sophomore year, I transferred to Ithaca College, which is where I finished out rowing. We won NCAAs my junior and senior years there. And I had decided that I wanted to go to nursing school, and had thought that I wanted to become a nurse practitioner. And I graduated college with a 7'11" 2K. And for some reason, I got in my head that I wanted to go under 7'10", for no other reason other than I just felt like it was something I wanted to do. And so I decided to start training for Crash Bees the winter after I graduated from college. And so I did that and went to Crash Bees and went a blistering 709, I think. And Laurel, the assistant coach on the national team, happened to be there. And so this is the February of 2006, I want to say. Yeah, February of 2006. And she's like, "Oh, why don't you come down to this selection camp in Princeton for the 4?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, great. That sounds awesome." And I'm like, "Of course she wants me. I go 709. I'm real fast." And I go down there, and oh my God, I was cut and sent home within 2 days. It was awful. It was awful. Whenever I tell the story, I always tell the anecdote of being in the bow of Mary's 8, because we of course went out in a bunch of different 8s, and having Mary say through her Cox box, "Bowsy, could you at least try to keep your blade in the water?" And I just remember being like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing." I did my first 2x6K ever, and I was sitting next to Susan Francia, who finished minutes ahead of me. But I was hooked. I was like, "Yeah, this is what I want to do. This is kind of what I want to try." And so I moved back to Boston, where I was living at the time, and joined Riverside Boat Club and started training there in their high performance group under Tom Keister, who was incredible and helped me a lot and developed me and started to kind of kick some fitness into me, if you will. And the next Crash Bees came around, and I once again, I broke 7 minutes finally. But Laurel was there once again, and this is in 2008. And she's like, "All right, so this is the Beijing Olympic summer, but the 4 was still a non-Olympic event. So there was a camp down in Virginia. Kevin Sauer was running to boat the non-Olympic Worlds 4. And Laurel's like, "You should go down there and, try out for that boat." And I was like, "All right, cool." I was feeling a little bit better. I had worked a little bit harder. I felt kind of physically and fitness wise, I was in a better spot than obviously 2 years prior. And so I went down there, and I did make the boat, which was exciting. And then we took it to trials up at Mercer, and the girls who were just cut out of the 8 formed a 4 and ended up beating us by I don't know, less than a tenth of a second or something. And so once again, I failed to make the national team, but Tom invited me that summer. He said, "Why don't you come back in the fall and come live in Princeton and train with the team?" And that's the goal when you're a female rower looking to kind of break into the training center group, is to get invited to live and train there. And so that's what I did. I packed up my life in Boston and moved to Princeton in 2008. Trained for all of 2008 and, spring of 2009, and spent the entire time in the bottom quarter of the team, of probably anywhere between 25 and 30 women, and was just slow and terrible, basically. So unsurprisingly, I got cut for the 3rd time that summer. Tom sat me down and was like, "Look, no." And I mean, it wasn't a surprise. I didn't deserve to make the team. I was not performing well at all, where I needed to be. And but he's like, this is the third time that you failed to make the team. I'm going to give you one more shot. This summer you need to train. And he gave me a time standard for my 6K that I had to improve upon. And come September, when the women who went to Worlds were on their break, there was a group of us that had to come back and had specific 6K goals that we had to hit, or else we would be asked to leave. And since it was my third time, it would have been the last time that I would have been asked. Like, I wouldn't have been invited back. And so, to be honest, I kind of wallowed in my own self-pity for a while and was like, this is unfair. I'm trying so hard. Like, woe is me. This is stupid. I don't, why am I not? I tried to find an excuse for it other than basically taking ownership of it and being like, okay, well, if this is what I want, what am I willing to do to get there? And that's kind of when it started that summer that I realized, and it was a progression. It occurred throughout my tenure on the team. Kind of just how hard you have to work on and off the water to achieve goals. Like, people say there's this thing, people say they value a lot of things, but when it comes right down to it, or people say they want a lot of things, but when it comes right down to it, only the things that you really value are what you're going to achieve, right? And so for whatever reason, I was bound and determined to hit this time standard that he set for me. And I trained that summer. I'll never forget, my family went on vacation to the Cape, and there's a tiny little hole in the wall gym where I swear the average age of the people there must have been 70, 75 years old. And I would sit in there. Yeah, it was awful. It was awful. I mean, the people were very nice, but I would sit in there. I would go twice a day to this gym and erg and lift weights, and fueled by the desire to achieve my goal, fueled by the belief that I could, fueled by anger, fueled by like so many different waves of emotion, right? And then that fall came around and I went back and actually crushed the time standard that he set out for me. And so I was not sent home. That didn't mean that I made the team, because we're still in September, right? But it meant that I didn't have to go home. And so that was kind of the beginning of what would be my 7 years on the national team. That summer, I made my first World's boat in 2010 that went to New Zealand, and then I made it every year after that up and through the 2016 Rio Olympics. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell, I guess.
Wow. That's incredible. So I get a couple of questions. I want to touch on a few things. So one is, I think this is really important for, let's say, high school athletes to kind of be aware of and present about. But you played two different sports in middle school and high school, soccer and basketball. You did not find rowing until your freshman year in college, right? So I think would you agree it's fair to say that you were, over the course of your entire athletic career, a multi-sport athlete? And then
100%. And to be honest with you, like, I credit that to part of the ability to have longevity in the sport, right? Like, my body hasn't been taking the wear and tear since I was in 7th grade. Like, I didn't do high school rowing. I didn't do junior team. I didn't do U23s. I didn't train intensely, quote unquote, until post college. Let's be real. Like, Division III rowing isn't really intense training, but I mean, if you're junior national team, big D1 school program, you're training pretty intensely, and it takes its toll on your body. And I was lucky enough to stumble into the sport later in life, so I didn't have that years and years of wear and tear leading up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think playing basketball and soccer, just from an athletic development standpoint, like hand-eye coordination and balance and sort of awareness in space of what's going on around you, like how did those things help you in rowing?
I guess I don't know if there's one thing specifically that I was like, oh, well, dribbling the ball definitely correlates with doing this, but it is kind of like what you said. It's just learning to kind of recognize where your body is in space and just develop athletic ability that you have, it keeps you active and fit and moves you so you're kind of you're hopefully recognizing where your body is in space, like you said, and I think they're different, right? So soccer and basketball are different, obviously, but, you're different planes of movement. Yes. And it's beneficial to be able to move in all different planes versus, in rowing, it's pretty
sagittal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Okay. So the other question I had for you, so as you were kind of sharing your story there and talking about finishing up college, and then, you wanted to break that 7-10 barrier, and then you got the invitation to come down to Princeton to try out for the team. And the way that you were explaining it, you talked about essentially being cut twice, and then you had like a final attempt. And I think it's sort of also important to point out, one thing I got from you right there was that you did not find success early on. You really struggled.
Oh yeah. I was bad. And I mean, it's funny for like whenever I go, because I give some talks at different clubs, and one of the things I love to do is kind of talk about my journey to the success that I had, because it wasn't easy, and it wasn't without its stumbling blocks, like it wasn't like I just checked off boxes along the way. It was like, yep, check here, yep, I mean, you get knocked down, I don't care who you are, over and over and over again. It's, like they say, whether you get back up that makes a difference. And it sounds like such a cliche, but that's the reality of the situation, Yes. And so, yeah, it was not easy. I took a lot of knocks, but I made it.
Yeah, you persevered and developed some really good grit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So if there was high school athletes listening to this interview, what is something you would want them to kind of take away from your experience that could try to help them as they go through, their own athletic career?
Well, I guess a couple different things. One is to not feel like you have to be pigeonholed into being only a rower, right? Like you can do so much more. And in fact, I encourage you to do so much more, because or I would encourage them to do more, because it's going to make you a more well-rounded athlete. And, from a wear and tear perspective to an ability to move in other directions other than back and forth on a track, it's pretty important. And I guess the other thing I would say is you want to enjoy it. Like, I played soccer and basketball and was part of the soccer and basketball team because I loved playing soccer and basketball. I didn't do it because my mom and dad made me do it, or because my friend did it or whatever. I did it because I wanted to do it. And I don't care if that's sport or if it's art or if it's music or whatever it is, do it because you love it, because then you're more likely to want to continue to do it and push to develop yourself further in that craft.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to love it. Yeah. And you got to be out there for yourself, not for others.
Exactly.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or touch on in regards to sort of that transition from college to the U.S. team, and making the team initially in 2010? Yep, that's it. Go ahead.
I guess, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but I'll state it anyways. You have to learn to kind of take ownership of the goal you set out for yourself. Right. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can say you want a lot of things, but until you're willing to see what you push the capacity of what you're willing to do, I don't think you can truly say you want that thing. And the third time I was cut, that was kind of like my gut check, where I was like, I need to own this. And at the time I didn't immediately have that thought, right? Like I immediately was like, I want to blame something else, because that's the easier thing to do, rather than to look inside myself and be like, oh, okay, well, I could have rested more. I could have trained harder. I could have, there's just a laundry list of things when you're especially when you're a young athlete, that you can fine tune and take small steps moving forward. And that's what I would encourage all young athletes to do, is whatever the goal, kind of own it and be like, okay, if this is what I truly want to do, what are some of the steps that I need to take to get there?
Yeah. And it becomes pretty clear.
Right.
Oh yeah. What was I going to ask you? Oh, did that, did those kind of experiences of kind of, going through and being cut, like, several times, did that make you kind of step back and really force you to take a lot more accountability and self-discipline?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what I mean by taking ownership of the goal. That's exactly what I mean. You have to ask more from yourself, because clearly what I was asking from myself at the time was not working. Like, I needed to give more. And there's not a secret sauce to it. There's no secret answer. Like, it was this one thing I did, right? It was this one moment where I was like, oh, yep, I'm going to do this. And that made all the difference. It's just building on top of things and recognizing where you can go and the work that needs to be put in order to get there, like one step at a time, whether that's extra K in on the weekend, or maybe you're an athlete that doesn't really have their nutrition dialed in, or maybe you're an athlete who kind of mentally lets themselves off the hook, or maybe you're always negative. There's so many different sides to training that you could look a bunch of different places and find more speed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially when you're young.
No stone unturned.
Yes.
So after that third time, like, what were some of the things you stepped back? Right. I know you said that there's no specific, like, one thing, but in terms of, like, mindset, right? When you started doing some of those sessions, because you had to come back and hit that specific time standard,
mm-hmm.
right? So obviously there was a shift in your mindset and perspective. Like, you went into those training sessions over the summer preparing for September, like, there was a real sense of urgency.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did your mental preparation, let's say June, July, August, heading into September, those months, compare to previous times when you were going into Princeton?
I think actually, it was challenging, but I want to say it was almost easier, right? So I had June, July, August. I had only 3 months. So in essentially it was a short-term goal. Right. So it was a very specific, I knew I had a number, I had a date, and I had a period of time that I had to achieve it. Right. So it was right there in front of me. And it was just a matter of staying focused on that, on the day to day, that made the difference. Like, I wasn't thinking about making the team that summer in 2010. I was thinking about hitting the time standard that I needed to hit in 3 months. And so for those 3 months, that was my focus. And then finding things that would make that increase the likelihood that I would be able to capitalize on the opportunity.
So you definitely stayed, bigger picture was there, but you stayed focused on the short-term goal that was going to set you up for that next step. Yeah,
which is a lot more manageable than if I was training that summer thinking, I want to make the London Olympics in 3 years.
Right.
It's like, okay, so where do I start?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's this sort of much bigger, like, kind of unknown void of like, how do I even begin to tackle that goal?
Exactly. And that was a lesson that I learned and carried through all of my training, was to break down into more kind of mastery oriented goals versus outcome oriented. I definitely had obviously the outcome oriented goal as did all of the women on the team. I'm assuming that when we were training for the Olympics was that, we wanted to win an Olympic gold medal, make the team and win an Olympic gold medal. But so if that was all that we focused on, was that one outcome oriented goal, it's daunting and incredibly hard to motivate yourself on a day to day, versus if you try and break that down into what, they're called mastery oriented goals. So maybe I had a goal for a week of practice of putting my catches in quicker. So if I could achieve my goal that week of catching quicker, then I'm going to make a boat move faster, which in turn is going to increase my chance of making the boat, which in turn is going to increase my chance of being able to capitalize on the opportunity to race in the Olympics. And then if I race in the Olympics, I then have another opportunity to see how fast I can go with that group of women, right? But you have to break it down like that. Or, maybe it was, okay, my catches need to be quicker, so I need to work on my core strength to be able to move my arms independently of my trunk and my torso. So this training block, I'm going to really focus on doing some extra core work. It's all about kind of breaking it down, like taking, if it were a Lego, like a Lego
set
sculpture. Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. If it were a Lego set, the end result is that, helicopter that you're putting together. But all those little pieces are essential for the helicopter to work at the end. And so you have to label all those little pieces and go through them before you get your end result. And so that's kind of how I thought about it. I was like, okay, well, better catches. What's going to make a catch better? What's going to make my leg drive better? What's going to make my endurance better, my power better? You name it. Tom wants me to think about this. What can I do on a variety of different levels to achieve that?
That's awesome. I love that. That's great. And I think the other thing that's really cool and important about that is everything you just talked about, all those different things, working on your catches, core strength, those are all things that you had direct control over.
Exactly. Because if you don't have, that's exactly the point, right? And so you'll notice I didn't say if I made the boat, then we were going to win an Olympic gold medal, right? Like, we would have the opportunity to capitalize on all of our training, right? And so that opportunity is within our control. I have no control over what GB is doing, over what Romania is doing, over what Canada is doing, over what New Zealand is doing. I only have control over what I am doing on a day-to-day basis. And so anything else that those teams are doing is just wasted energy. I don't need to think about that. I can't think, oh, what if they're doing this? Well, so what if they are? There's nothing you can do about it anyways. So why am I even going to waste the energy? Why don't I think instead about what can I do that's going to make me a better athlete or me a better teammate, and in turn make the boat as a whole better? Stay focused on what you can control.
100%. I love it. That's awesome. Awesome. Very powerful message for some of the younger high school and collegiate athletes out there. Very cool.
That's not to say it's easy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. So
I remember one time Tom said to me, and it was a realization that I had that to this day, actually, I will still think about, during erg pieces. I used to look around a lot because I was worried, anxious, hyper aware of what was going on around me and what the person next to me was doing. And Tom said to me once, what does it matter? And then I was like, well, it matters because if they're faster than me or whatever, right? If I lose or, if whatever, insert here. But it didn't matter because I had no control over what that athlete was doing. So if I look over and I'm losing to them by 600 meters, I have no control over anything they're doing. If I look over and I'm winning by 600 meters, that also doesn't matter because I have no control over what they're doing. I can only control myself right there. And so why does it matter if I'm looking around? And when he mentioned that to me, I remember my next erg piece, I was like, okay, I'm only going to focus on my piece, how my body feels, what I'm doing every single stroke. And it was a profound change in my performance. I mean, it wasn't like at that point I beat everyone or something, but it was the actual erg piece itself felt better. And it was easier to focus and be like, oh, yep, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing at this moment. It matters the effort that I'm putting out because that's what I control.
Awesome. Yeah. Really good. Really good. So I'm curious, leading up to London and then after London to Rio, how do those two experiences compare? Were they vastly different? Like, obviously you're a more mature athlete, a little bit, older, you have, a little bit more mileage under on your body as an athlete. You've been training for, at a higher level for several more years at that point. So how did those two experiences compare?
They were grossly different, right? The turnover was huge, was pretty big from London to Rio. So it was a whole new group of athletes. And it's challenging as a returning athlete because you have to recognize that it's a new group, and the group itself has its own interconnectedness that it's going to develop, like it becomes its own entity, and that is different than the one prior. So if you go into your second or third or whatever cycle and expect it to be like the previous cycle, it's not. It's a completely different group of women. So we're going to interact differently. We're going to, it's going to ebb and flow differently. From a mental perspective, I would say it was more challenging, given that I was older than a lot of the athletes. And so, candidly, it's hard sometimes to be like, oh, well, I'm in my early 30s and I'm 10 years older than this girl. You're like, hey, right? And also as a newcomer on the team, you kind of have that, it's like being a freshman in college, right? Like you have that camaraderie with all the other freshmen versus if you're one of 2 or 3 returners or upperclassmen, you're kind of outside that circle. You don't have that bond because you're not the new girl. So you can't immediately bond right off the bat with the other new girls because they have each other. So it's interesting, but it's fun because, again, it's a new group and you can see where it goes, where it develops, where, watch it unfold, watch the personalities come out. And, that was always fun for me to watch, and be able to kind of see the women develop from young athletes that didn't really know the potential they had to when they started to tap into it. And that's exciting because it's pretty cool to watch a team develop that way.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Now so as you said, the group of women changed after 2012 and then the next quadrennium leading up to Rio, but kind of one of the consistent threads during that time period is that the team was still having that unbelievable historic run where they were winning every year, right? So there is some turnover, there's new athletes, there's fresh blood coming onto the team, but there's this sort of very living, real, high standard of like, we've got to keep this thing going. So what was that like?
I would say as it progressed, it almost became less of a big deal to us because, it was such a different group. The 8 that raced in the heat in Rio had never raced internationally in that lineup before. So that boat had never won or lost. Like, it's a different group. And if you, it's all about how you mentally frame it and kind of think about it. Like, what good is it going to do us as a team to think, oh my God, we've never lost. This boat has never lost. This boat has never lost. This boat has never lost. What does that do?
It doesn't really. Yeah. It makes you feel like you got to protect something.
Right. But you don't, because it's just another opportunity, you know? Yeah, it wasn't like we didn't think about it or it didn't ever occur to us. Yeah, it would, I mean, or I can only speak for myself, I guess. It's not like it didn't ever occur to me that yes, the women's eight has not lost in X number of years, but it became more of when we were at the start line, like, what can we do as a boat of 9 today? What can the 9 of us do? I know how much we've trained. I know how hard and how tough every other woman in this boat is. So now I'm just excited to see what it's going to be like when we put it out there. If that puts us coming in first, great. If that puts us coming in last, okay, less than ideal. But I'd like to think that the knowledge of us putting it all out there would be, okay, this is where we are. So now let's see where we can go from here.
Right.
You know, it's hard to articulate because it is what everybody in kind of like the media talked about, like, oh, you haven't lost in this long. And, you know, I did an interview, it must have been around a year ago now, for, I believe it was it was either Row 360 or Rowing News, I forget, that was talking about the quote unquote legacy of the women's eight. And the woman did research on the number of athletes that rotated, in different athletes that were in the eight. And there are maybe a handful of repeats over 11 years, like maybe 5 athletes or something. I mean, the statistics on it are ridiculous. There's just such a wide variety of women that raced in that boat. And to say that one boat is the same as the last boat is doing a disservice to all that have trained for it and in it. And, you know, at the training center, especially I would say in my last 4 years, it really was all about making each other better, because that's what benefited the whole. Like, I didn't want to lose an erg piece to someone, but I knew how much I was putting out. And if it turns out that I was going to lose to the girl next to me, I know that she is working her butt off as well. And that is awesome, because I want to be in a boat with her.
Right.
Like, I want to go to the line with this woman for sure.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Very cool. So let's shift gears a little bit. And I think you had this awesome in the article, What You Don't Know About Rowing.
Oh.
And it was in the Players Tribune.
Oh, yep.
And there's this line you talk about where there's this shift in momentum during a race. And I would really appreciate if you kind of go into depth in what that is and why that's important.
Sure. So I believe that article was written shortly after our World Cup race in, it was either 14 or 15 World Cup in France, when the eight had all doubled up into the pairs. So all 4 pairs in the 8 raced 2 hours prior in the A final of the pair event. And then we line up for the 8 event and go out of the blocks flat. I mean, if you watch that race, we're down by open water at the 1,000, and you can feel it you can feel when a boat is heavy. Anyone who has rowed in a boat for an extended period of time knows when the boat's heavy and knows when the boat's moving well. And we're just going along, and Caitlin, I believe, you know, how I mentioned just a few minutes ago about how we always, we kind of, my second quad took a certain amount of pride in each other. Like, we did things for each other, like for our teammates. That's what kind of motivated us. Like, we didn't want to let our teammates down because we knew how hard each of them were working. Mm-hmm. And Caitlin made a call at one point about, I want to say it was maybe just past the 1,000 or somewhere near the halfway point. And she said, do this for your pair partner. Do this for the woman in front of you. And we were all deep in the hurt locker. And it took maybe about 3 strokes, and the boat just kind of took off right after she said that. Like, you could feel it. Like, you could feel everyone be like, yeah, I'm going to do this for the girl in front of me and the girl behind me. Maybe I can't do it for myself right now because I'm in such a great deal of pain, but I can do it for that girl who's sitting in front of me. And it was incredible. The feeling is kind of indescribable, and I wish that anyone who ever rows in a team boat has the opportunity to feel that happen. And I'm not going to lie and say that it becomes painless, because that's a load of crap. It hurt something fierce, but it was like, I knew it. And it's funny, Joe, all I kept thinking was like, because Caitlin will tell us when we start to move or if we're moving or whatever, we knew exactly where we were. And all I kept thinking, one stroke at a time, as I was following, because Caroline was stroking and I was in 6th seat. And I kept thinking to myself, Caitlin's just got to say we're moving. Like, I was just waiting for her to say, you're moving, because I knew if we started to move, if we could tap into that rhythm as a boat of 9 women, and as long as the course didn't run out, we would be a freight train. And when she said, you're moving, I was like, yes. It was almost like, yeah, that's when I believed. I was like, we're going to do this. I know we are going to do this. And we did. It came right down to the wire for sure. But I mean, it was a freight train of a rhythm that she led down the course. And it was all 9 of us just selling our souls. It hurt something fierce.
Yeah, oh God, I can only imagine. You say right here, I got the article up. It says, incredibly painful, and rowers don't make the most photogenic faces while rowing.
It's true. It's true. It's definitely true. It's great, and it's pretty cool because we were in the outside lane because we didn't do the race for lanes because we had raced in the pair. Mm-hmm. And so we're close to where the speaker is or the microphone is or something. And you can hear Caitlin if you pull the video up on World Rowing or else on YouTube. I forget where it is. You can hear Caitlin screaming at us when it starts to happen. And and then it cuts to Caroline, and Caroline like lets out this primal scream, and she of course has her sunscreen on her face, and it always brings a smile to my face. It is definitely one of my most favorite races. When people ask, "Well, what's your favorite race?" And I'll say that race is one of them, and they're like, "Oh, not the Olympics?" Yeah, the Olympics were amazing. That's the easy answer. But I'm talking about a time when like you got the odds stacked against you. And we pulled it out as a boat of 9, and it was incredible.
And I'm sure you would say too that type of experience, going through that where you're down open water and you claw back from that and you end up winning the race, that is an experience that, later on you can draw from. Oh,
100. If you're smart, you will. 110%. If you are a smart and an intelligent athlete, you will draw on that experience when you are sitting on an erg and you are deep into an erg test and you're starting to see yourself blow up. That's something you need to think about. Right. That you and your teammates pulled yourselves out of the pain cave then, so you can do it again now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Outstanding. Okay, let's shift gears again.
Okay.
And you have this, I believe it's on your website, this quote, and it's dream bigger, fail forward, and live with intent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you make that up yourself, or did you read that?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
How did you come up with that, and what does that mean to you?
I guess it developed over time. I think they're all kind of interconnected, to be honest with you. The whole fail forward is something that had I not done and had I not learned to do, I would not be where I am today. I would not have kind of when it comes from a rowing perspective, the hardware that I have. If I didn't fail forward and instead I just stopped, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, right? I wouldn't be talking to you. So, if a failure is just a lesson in disguise, as they say. And it's really important. Again, it sounds totally cliche, but if you can embrace that and, give yourself a second to be upset, that's totally fine. And, that means you care. That's good. But then step back, and all you have to do is find one thing, just one thing from that experience to take away that you didn't know before. And it's no longer a failure. It's a lesson. I'm talking, even if it's the most mundane thing, if you can take one thing from it, you have flipped it around and it's no longer a failure. It's a lesson. You failed forward. And, the whole dream bigger thing is related to that in the sense that if you approach your life that way, why not dream bigger, right? You're going to fail. You can't prevent it from happening. You really cannot prevent it from happening. If you have lofty enough goals, whether it's professionally, personally, athletically, you cannot prevent yourself from failing. So you might as well dream big. And, live with intent. You say you want something, prove it. Have the intent to do it.
That's awesome. That's a great quote. Very, you shave that one down and make it very concise. It's good. It's really good. I like that too. I think it's kind of cool. Over the course of the conversation so far, I think you've been very candid and raw with sharing your failures, right? And it's interesting to hear you talk about them because every time you bring them up, you kind of, at the end of the story, you have this smile on your face. And to me, that's really important for younger athletes to get a sense of, because it's not so binary. It's not so black and white. It's really a shift in perspective like that. You can let that failure be the end of the road and define you, or you can simply look at it as a learning opportunity like you're talking about, right?
And recognize that that's your choice. There's no right or wrong answer to that. If you decide that the last failure is your last one and you're done, own that decision. That's your choice, but own it.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Anything else to add around your quote, dream bigger, fail forward, and live with intent? No?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it kind of speaks for itself, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I hope it does.
So. It does. Okay. So we're going to get into some shift gears again. And we will kind of talk about a little bit of your experience and then kind of your thoughts on kind of stepping back now, having transitioned from being a high performance athlete and now you're coaching, right? Mm-hmm. So
I'm not coaching rowing.
Oh, I know, but you're still coaching.
Okay. Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're still a coach. Yeah.
Yes.
You're still a coach. Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, I guess that's important. So why don't you clarify for the audience in case anybody's not worried, who are you coaching and where, and what are you doing and where?
I'm out in San Francisco and I coach at a gym out here called Flagship Athletics that kind of their whole mission is to teach people to move better and move for life, basically, which is pretty awesome. And so I help coach classes here, and I'm also a personal trainer. So I do one-on-one personal training, and then I work with a variety of rowing athletes as well. So I consult for rowing athletes out here and remotely. So
awesome.
Anyone?
Awesome. Yeah. Plug yourself for sure. Go ahead.
If anyone wants some rowing coach or some training coaching rather remotely, I'm happy to help them out. Yep.
And I'll make sure to include your website and contact info in the show notes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So with that, based on your your personal experience as a high performance athlete and now transitioning right into a coach, in the role of a coach. So what's your thoughts and recommendation on younger athletes, junior athletes, so middle school, high school? What's important for them for long-term athletic development?
I mean, again, this is just my opinion, right? Like I have absolutely no idea if this is the right answer or the wrong answer, but in my opinion, I don't think you should only do one sport. And I recognize that that is a risky thing to say, especially nowadays when parents are like, well, if they specialize in this, then it'll increase the chance that they get a scholarship. And since school costs half a fortune, it's pretty important, for a lot of families out there that you get that scholarship. And so I understand that and can see that angle. But from an athletic perspective, in terms of burnout, enjoyment, body maintenance, I would say try new and different things. Don't be afraid to try new and different things.
Awesome. And hence, you played two different sports, soccer and basketball, so doing a lot of different movements.
Yeah, again, had I not tried rowing, I mean, I had totally written it off. I was like, no, I'm a basketball player. Man.
And you actually already answered my next question for you was, should we specialize in one sport early? Yeah, there we go. Okay.
I mean, but again, that's just my opinion, which is not, the gospel or anything. It's just my opinion.
Well, I forget where I read it recently. I'll have to find it. But I think there was like a research article, maybe it was from the NSCA or maybe it was functional movement systems. But anyway, there was something that it looked at professional athletes. It might have been in the NFL, and then like the sports they played, and then like when they started playing football, and most of them were multi-sport athletes for the majority of their athletic career, and they didn't start playing one sport until later.
If you're a good athlete, I think by definition you can pick up other sports, right? Isn't that kind of the definition of being athletic?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. I mean,
that's right. Totally, 100%. Okay, so I actually also got some questions because I mentioned I was going to interview you on Facebook. So some people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I got some questions. So one of the questions was, what is a personal coaching tip from Tom Terhar? So I'm guessing, is there something? So let's kind of refine this. But is there like?
You're gonna have to be a little bit more specific.
Right. Is there something that Tom would emphasize to maybe you or the team on a regular basis in terms of coaching? That came up over everything.
Everything's optional was what he would say.
What does that mean?
Everything's optional. Well, when you're it's true, right? Like we're there by choice. Like
I see what you mean. Okay.
I choose to go to practice. I choose to do the erg pieces, right? He's not making me do them. But if I want what I say I want, I know what the appropriate opt is. So that's always a good one. It's like, well, it's optional. And you're like, I don't think that's true, but that's always a good one. What's one of the other ones? I don't know. God, I mean, I've got a lot. I've learned a lot of tidbits from that man. Let's see. I don't know. I really do think, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I really do think that the whole it's optional thing is like, if you step back and like stop, like take it, a little bit deeper, it's true.
Yeah.
And that it kind of circles it circles back to what you want, what you can, because you control that again, right? And so it really doesn't matter. Maybe you're like physiologically an animal and have this amazing rowing ability. That doesn't mean you have to row.
Right.
If you don't like it. You don't have to be there and do it. You're choosing to be there. You're in control of that.
It's a pretty brilliant, concise.
Very calm, if you will.
Right,
Very
right.
calm.
because it's again, it's perspective, and it puts the onus on the individual, the athlete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the first time he said it to me. I was in tears when he said it because it was in actually right before I was cut for the third time. We had just done pieces from the finish line to the Green Bridge right in front of Princeton on Carnegie. And I was dead last, bad, slow. And so of course I started last in the group and had the benefit of having the launch follow me the entire way for the 4.5K. And I was in my own personal hell, and I crossed the finish line, and he motors up to me, and among a variety of other things, one of the last things he says was, "You don't have to be here." And I just kind of looked at him because it didn't occur to me. I was like, "Oh." But I was like, "But I want to be here," as tears are streaming down my face.
Right.
Yeah. But that's the answer. I want to be here. So what am I going to do to keep myself here?
Yeah. And then what actions do I need to take to make that happen?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's pretty smart. And then another question I got was,
do I know Elle Yolgan? Yes, she's one of my closest friends.
Yes, I know. I know you know Elle Logan. Yes, I knew. Yeah, I don't know.
It was funny. I was talking with Elle. I was like, "Elle, this is ridiculous. These people keep asking about you," and she started laughing.
Yes. Do you want me to ask you those questions? I was going to skip them since they're not really.
Go ahead. You can. Go ahead.
Okay.
I love Elle. Elle and I are very close, so it's fine.
Okay, so one of the questions I got was, why did Elle rejoin the 8 after rowing the single?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I know.
What kind of a question is that? Oh, let me tell you why. No way. You definitely would have to ask Elle that. That's for a different podcast. I respect the question, but that is not my place to answer. Nor could I begin to guess the answer. Right? Like that'd just be presumptuous of me. Actually, the answer is because of me. I'm 110% kidding.
I know you are. Well, I will file that one away, and if I have the opportunity to interview Elle, I will ask her then. That
question actually reminds me when I was up getting interviewed before the Olympics at NBC, and they asked me, this could potentially be Michael Phelps's last Olympics. How do you feel about that? And I looked at the interviewer and I go, how does Michael Phelps feel about the fact that this could potentially be my last Olympics?
Right. Yeah.
And then the woman just kind of stood there and gave me like this blank stare, and people like in the background working the camera started laughing, and I was like, what? I mean, what?
I think that's hilarious. That's awesome. That's a great, kudos to you for coming up with such a quick retort to that question. That was great. Okay. But I do have a good question for you. So one of the other ones I got was, so after so much success that you've had, how do you continue to keep yourself motivated?
I try and identify what I'm passionate about. And I love learning new things. There's so much that I don't know. So like I mentioned, I'm currently working out of a gym that is has a lot of CrossFit in its background, and just the training methodology and the coaches here that I can learn from have such a wealth of knowledge on topics that I don't have a lot of knowledge in. And so it's this awesome opportunity to learn from them and kind of make myself a better coach by learning from people who are better than me. And that's what motivates me. Like, I want to be better and learn. And, like, there's so much that I don't know. And, the idea of like what I could possibly come away with and learn is kind of limitless. And so it's a pretty cool thing.
Oh yeah. I can totally relate to that because I'm in the exact same position at my job. It's awesome. It makes it very easy to go to work.
Yes, exactly. I work at a gym, like I do what I love, like health and fitness and wellness is my passion. And awesome. So that's what I get to do every single day. And it's pretty cool.
Excellent. Good for you. All right. So that was all the topics we had.
Great.
I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions.
All right.
So, given all of your life experience, all right, if you go back in time, what advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
High school doesn't matter.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. What's your favorite strength training exercise?
Deadlift.
Nice. Hex bar or barbell?
Both.
There you go. How has your training changed today, present day, compared to 10 years ago?
10 years ago? 10 years ago, 2008, summer 2008. It's completely different. I have so much more knowledge about training now than I did 10 years ago. And I hope that 10 years from now, I have more knowledge then than I do now. I incorporate weight training a lot more. I know how to push myself physically further by conquering myself mentally. I mean, I could go on and on about how my training has changed. I mean, that's the
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. It has changed a lot.
Awesome. Has that allowed you to kind of, you talking about pushing yourself mentally, so you can go further physically. So you have all of that experience, from being a high performance athlete. So you kind of know, you can read your body pretty well in terms of like, today's a good day. I know I can push in and yeah, it's going to hurt, but I'm going to have a good training session. And then you can also kind of be like, yeah, today's not feeling so great. Going to kind of take it a little easier, right? Because you have that choice now. You have that choice.
Oh, yes, I have that choice now. But I also have the knowledge that I learned when I was training. When you're training at the elite level, there are days where you do not feel good. And it's the mental fortitude to be like, end goal. What's my end goal? Like, granted, setting aside other physiological issues, if you have an injury or something, right? Like, I'm not asking you to train through an injury, but you train, you exist in a state of tired when you're training at the elite level a lot of times.
That's a great quote. You exist in a state of tired.
It's true. And maybe that for me, at least, I exist in a state of tired. And I have, like you said, I know myself pretty well, and I can generally tell I'm toeing the line / have stepped over when I will spontaneously burst into tears and cannot tell you why. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to need to take a nap.
And isn't it funny that how much sleep helps?
Oh God, yes, I slept, I would say, I mean, I don't think this is an exaggeration, between 9 and 10 hours a day, every day when I was training.
That's awesome.
Granted, it wasn't all at night. Like, we would live for the nap. Love a good nap, Joe. Love it. This whole living in the real world with no naps thing took a little bit of time to get used to.
Hence the extra coffee.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Hence the extra coffee is right. I was like, wait, what? I can't just go home, eat second breakfast, and take a nap and get up and work out again?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a transition right there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a harsh reality.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever had an injury? And if so, what was it and how did it affect your training?
Um, I have never had a serious injury that has taken me out for more than a couple of days. I'm
Oh,
very, very lucky. So
so
I can't, can't help
flip
you on it.
that. Yeah, so let's flip that question. All right.
Okay.
So that's good to know. So what do you attribute to that you didn't ever have a serious injury?
I come from hardy stock.
All right, so we're giving our parents kudos, good genes, good
Yeah,
genes.
I don't know. I wish I could tell you, I don't know. It'd be great if I knew. I'm sure there are a lot of people who have their own opinions on it, but do you ever really know why some people get injured and others don't? Like some people are just more prone to it or susceptible to it. And I was lucky enough on my time on the team to not be one of the athletes that was susceptible to it easily. I'm incredibly grateful and lucky in that sense because it adds a whole different dynamic to the way you have to train and the way you have to take care of your body. And it's an added ball that you have to juggle.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that you didn't specialize in one sport early on helped you not become injured?
For sure. My body in rowing is younger than an athlete my age who did it all throughout high school, for sure.
Right. What is one thing junior athletes, so let's say high school, should be doing more of to complement their training and their health?
Eating better food and getting more rest.
Simple stuff, but important.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most important mental factor for an athlete to have so that they can be successful in sport?
The ability to lie to yourself.
What do you mean? What does that mean?
So let me elaborate on that a little bit. In the middle of an erg piece, when I'm starting to hurt, I'm telling myself I like it and it feels good. I like this. This feels good. I like this.
So we got a little bit of a masochist perspective going on in the hurt locker.
Think about it. I can sit there during my 2K test and I can say to myself in my head, oh my God, this hurts. My legs are on fire. I don't know if I can do this. Oh my God, I kind of want to stop. This hurts. Ow, what if I don't do bad? Or I can say over and over to myself, I like this. This feels good. This is my legs working. I like this. This feels good. Say what you want to yourself. You make the choice. You can tell yourself that it hurts a lot, or you can attempt to lie to yourself. And what if you're lucky and it works and you do kid yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, it's you're associating some positive words with
exactly
what you're going through. So it's good.
Flood your mind with positive thoughts.
Yes. What did you do to recover after a training session? What was your go-to?
Eat, sleep, repeat. Okay. Over and over and over again. Second breakfast was my favorite meal of the day.
Oh, nice. What would you advise rowers to do from your own experience so that they can go faster?
Consistency in training.
Okay. All
versus going really hard for 3 weeks and then having to take 2 weeks off because you get injured, or going really hard for a week and being so sore that you can't move for 4 days. Consistent training. Build on it.
That's right. Consistency trumps intensity.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite meal?
I love guacamole.
Nice. Homemade?
I don't know if that's a meal, but I love.
She loves guacamole. All right.
Yeah, I love guacamole.
God. Wow. Okay. Awesome. All right. What's one book everyone should read?
The one book that really resonated with me recently that I read And it's a sports performance psychology book. The Ben Bergeron book. I'm really bad at knowing the names of the books I read.
Is it Endure?
No. I forget. If you Google it, it's just if you want to look into the mind kind of what it takes to train at the elite level, and kind of, it's just a very accurate depiction. And he gives a lot of tidbits on the mental side of training. So he's a CrossFit he trains like the top 3 CrossFit Games athletes. And it talks a lot about culture and mental training and, physical training, and like actually what it takes to be at the top and how you can control a variety of different things. There's just a lot of, as a person who wants to train and be successful at the elite level, I would recommend this book. Chasing Excellence. I think that's what it is.
Chasing Excellence.
I believe.
Oh, Ben Bergeron. Okay. Here it is.
Yeah.
There it is. Chasing Excellence, a story about the world's fittest athletes.
And it is CrossFit related, but I can tell you, having I am not an elite CrossFitter. I am an retired elite rower. The concepts are totally transferable.
Cool.
It's the same.
Very cool. Who have you studied, or do you continue to study in your career to improve and get better?
At rowing?
No, it's anything. It could be coaching. It could be,
I always try and look for people who are better than me or doing something that I don't know or understand, because that's one surefire way to learn something new.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, Megan.
Thank you, Joe. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad you had fun. You're off the rapid fire hot seat.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Just hang on. Let me wrap up the call, and I'll say goodbye off air.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the Leo Training Podcast. Subscribe and get even more expert training tips at www.leotraining.io.